Hi, I'm Andy.
I'm Taylor. We're the Newton Brothers.
We're here today to talk about our new sample library called Tenebra that we've done with Spitfire Audio. We've curated a bunch of sounds from the projects we've worked on over the years, horror, fantasy, sci-fi, our favorite synth sounds, some of the weird found objects we've recorded and treated and processed, and we've kind of gathered them all together in one little special place.
Today we're at the Newton Brothers lab, and we're going to show you some of the sounds that we created for this new library.
Yeah, we'll get into the process of how we recorded some of it, the inspiration behind it, and just sort of the fidgety little fun that we like to get into when we're sort of mining sounds and finding something that's fun and creative and inspiring.
Over the course of all the movies and TV we've done, we've really learned which sounds stick out as amongst some of our favorites.
This library is called Tenebra. It means darkness. And we kind of wanted to look into the process of creating sounds and atmosphere around melodies and thematic ideas. Darkness seemed to be a good place to start because there seems to be this blank space every time we come onto a project. And it's about filling that space, but not filling that space just for the purpose of filling that space. It's about filling that space with something interesting and something that is very intentional.
We wanted to find something that inspires us. So every sound or new thing we developed, we run it through different plugins, pedals, effects, modular gear.
Yeah, and it's really about that inspiration and finding that one thing that will sort of launch off into, a whole series of things. And sometimes that original idea might not even be the final idea. That might just be the catalyst to sort of get you going.
So we've selected a bunch of things from the Theravox to the Lyra to the ARP 2600 to voices and just kind of obscure instruments.
A lot of what we look for in these instruments is a vulnerability because a lot of the stuff that we're working on is darker, it's horror, thriller, and we're trying to find that vulnerability that sits in the background of a lot of these scenes and allows you to feel an uneasiness and a tension. The lurking behind the scenes, the lurking behind the story, the curiosity, as you're watching something, wondering why you're feeling a certain way, not being too predictable with that.
Yeah.
And that comes down to a lot of the sort of imperfect and, not to overuse the word, but the vulnerability of the sound and how it makes you feel that tension and draws you into the scene and the music.
Yeah, I think you're looking for a sonic identity for the music you're writing. You're looking to have that project be associated with a kind of sound.
And while the library is called Tenebra, indicating dark, there is hope within like sort of a lot of what we're looking to do. And sometimes it's interesting to take some of these dark sounds and apply them to scenes. We're working on something right now. The direction is to have sort of a hopeful moment in a very dark situation.
So this has been curated in the Solar engine. And what's great about this is that like when we sit down and we watch a scene, we're inspired by what we're seeing visually. And sometimes we'll start with a melody, sometimes we'll start with the space that's in the environment. And what's great about these sounds, you can just put them in, load them in, and they evoke those kind of emotions. And then if you want to do more mingling and cross modulation and different things, this library will allow you to do that. You can go more wild and crazy, or you can keep it more subdued and just dark, which is a great starting point. And it can keep it simple or get much more complex, which is nice because sometimes you just want to go to something, use it, be inspired, and other times you want to try infinite possibilities. I first used eDNA, and I love that synth engine and the way the gate allows you to go back and forth and create sort of this moving space. And what's great about the Solar engines, we're able to do that with our sounds. And a lot of the ethereal stacking or drones or the synths allows the blending the two and morphing them. And I always found that super duper inspiring.
Yeah, it's a good way to give motion to sequences that you need to find a sort of unique way to give motion to them without just being obvious with it. It's very useful.
So yeah, we usually start off by just, having a concept or an idea that leads us to a sound before we even approach a machine. Even sometimes the project will make a search for certain sort of instruments or drum machines or whatever. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the initial sound you're after doesn't quite yield what you want, but then it leads to something else.
It's more sort of finding a sound within the instrument.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the sounds in this library, particularly too, are blends of multiple things.
Yeah.
So it's like we're using Lily's voice mixed with the black flutes. We're using Therevox mixed with a voice. It's always these combinations of things.
Yeah.
And you know, it's always fun, even as we start off with sort of certain pieces of Eurorack, certain pieces of modular. Some of it is incredibly inspiring.
Yeah.
So it's about finding and isolating what is good and bringing those elements together into sort of a useful sound.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a taste to it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then of course, you know, I feel like you're playing all these instruments, you play so many instruments, and you have that background, so it's able to sort of grab all those natural sounds and then sort of modulate them and alter them in a way that seems, you know, is it digital? Is it organic? And that's a great place to be in where you don't know.
Yeah.
And then that inspires, you know,
Yeah.
what you're gonna write. Whereas, you know, I try to a lot of times come with more of the digital approach, although it is spinning around.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Like, I mean, X-Men '97 has a lot of that, right? Have the big live sound, as well as a lot of the processed and treated sort of synths that are playing along with it.
Yeah.
That's sort of a more macro of how some of the more micro details have been with a lot of this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think? What piece has been the most hazardous for us, you think?
I think the Solar 42 takes just an immense amount of time to set up. It's an awesome synthesizer, but I feel like it takes a bit of fidgeting to get to where you need it. A lot of the secret sauce that a lot of people miss in times of finding something that is unique and original, and you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Having a bunch of just amazing pedals that do different things, whether they're modulating or pitching in different ways.
Yeah.
With, you know, beautiful reverbs and lush ambient spaces. I feel like you can take a boring sound and transform it into something that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's always been the sort of the cheat way, the quick way to find some glorious sound.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like in the modular world, you have to work for it a little bit. More like with the Polygo-Go, such a cool synthesizer, but you know, you have to take some time to hone in on that piece of Eurorack.
It's all a process and a little bit of a journey. I mean, even on the organic side, sitting down with an acoustic guitar and you know, trying to get an EBow to work with an acoustic guitar to get the string to vibrate without the pickups, and just finding ways to like create sounds and tones and tension that kind of need to be stood on their head a little bit so that you can, you know, make it a thing.
I think in the sound design process, you're looking for a signature sound. You're looking for something that's signature to the project you're on. So it's about finding that hunt, and sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's organic, sometimes it's digital. And I think a lot of times we use the Euroracks to just process sound rather than create sound.
But really, it comes down to usually a very simple idea that we land on, I think.
Yeah.
And that's sort of that's the journey of it all, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you already have a motif that's working, what is like the sauce that's going to go with that motif? And where's the space in between everything, so that you don't feel like you're just piling a whole bunch of like noise on top of each other?
It's interesting because the sound design can be like an amazing tool that just enhances and sort of separates your music from others. Or it can also be a foe and just like, just make it super muddy and distract from what you're trying to make. And I think it's important that knowing where that balance is and the simplicity, when you need to evoke darkness, when you need to evoke, you know, light. Finding
that sound that makes people go, what's that? Or lean in a little bit, you know, like what's going on, what's happening? Like, I think that's what you're searching for.
Yeah, just the other day I was using one of the Therevox sounds that we created on a cue, and I was just like, oh my God, this just fits so well right into that futuristic scene.
Yeah.
It was awesome. So I think again, finding something that invokes inspiration is key.
Yeah.
Having a sound and making it your own. And a lot of times you can really do that really well by modulation and processing and reverbs and different kinds of effects. And even for some of the string library stuff we had, processing it and making these sort of ghost sounds that had like trails to them.
Yeah.
Fits so nicely. And it's just such a simple thing, but it adds a lot of flavor to a scene.
Yeah.
And I think things like that, things that enhance things in the library that that sort of evoke a certain feeling without it being just like drowned in something that you can't understand or relate to.
It's very satisfying and freeing when you start to recognize that you can take simple sounds and start with that as a base, but then move into sort of a world. And I think that's what you and I like to do a lot.
Yeah.
We like to. We're not so interested in the raw sounds. They're an important ingredient.
Yeah.
But we're more interested in making those sounds into something that is more unique and different, even if
Yeah.
it's just a single, guitar string, like
Yeah.
one guitar string, playing one note into
Right.
another note and turning that into something that's interesting and effective and it doesn't sound like a guitar. I
Yeah.
think that's fun.
Yeah, and sometimes too, I feel like we get requests a lot of sort of bringing that organic or synthesized or hybrid sound, you could say, with orchestra and sort of combining the two
Yeah.
to make something that's a bit unique.
Yeah.
And I think we get requests all the time for like, oh, what is that weird sound? Or well, let's put that more places. What is that strange thing? Why does the orchestra sound like this? And it gives the appearancy that it may be something in the orchestra when we know it's a produced track
Yeah.
or a produced sound. So I think it helps having an edge on the competition or the music to deliver something that gives you that availability, that experience.
On projects, we don't just send our recordings to the mixer. We request them back because usually we're doing some
Yeah.
heavy manipulating because that's sort of, I think that's just a sound that we prefer, and that's sort of what we've done with this library. Is like we sort of create a sound that we prefer to, like a taste that we sort of have been acquiring over the years with all the projects.
Yeah, and it's cool that the Solar Engine sort of allows you to keep expanding on that technology.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that it keeps modulating between sounds. It gives you that expansion of like, well, we created this sound, we created that sound, but somebody else who uses it is going to make something different by cross-modulating or
it's infinite.
adding something else. And what's great about that is it'll be like, cool, that was mine, but now it's somebody else's.
Yeah.
And it sounds different.
Yeah.
We have such a huge variation of sounds, things that were recorded, solo here in the room, large orchestras in big studios across the world. And it's sort of a culmination of some of our favorite things that we've gotten.
They're coming off of big desks in big studios that we've recorded a lot of our scores at as well. It's nice to have like worked in these great places where the room has a sound, and we're getting sort of the professionalism of the players who have played for their entire careers, and getting sort of those performances, and then being able to take those performances and further sort of manipulating those things on our end to like make them even more unique than sort of the recordings we've put together.